Harlan Hall at UCSD. There's a girl here who is unconscious, and she...
Do we know how she went unconscious?
I think she fell from a balcony. There's a party upstairs. There's a party on the 3rd floor. And
so are you guys in a building somewhere on the sidewalk?
No, we're outside. We're outside. On the north side, I think.
She's still unconscious, but she is breathing.
She's having a hard time breathing.
Stay on the line. I'm going to get paramedics, and then I have more questions for you, okay?
You guys have to hurry, man. I think she's getting... I can't hear her breathe. I can't hear her breathing anymore. She's not breathing anymore, I think.
I remember being at the party and it was kind of boring. So we just went outside with like a bottle and we were drinking and like not really paying attention to how much we were drinking or really what we were doing, but we were looking for something else to do. And then the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital like the next morning.
I called her phone number. I kept calling it and nobody was answering until somebody answered, and she said she was the detective from UCSD. And she had her phone and all her stuff. So she told me that she'd fallen out of a balcony, that she was conscious, but she was in the ER.
And they did tell her that they did tell us that she fell off the 3rd floor. And I remember thinking, 3rd floor? You know, I was hoping like, 8-foot balcony or something. 3rd floor, you're thinking, oh my God, what? You're freaking.
I remember that morning when I first woke up in the hospital, I looked down at myself and I was so confused because I didn't remember anything and I couldn't talk. I couldn't really move and I didn't know why. And I remember just being like, uh-oh, like, why am I here? And my mom was like, you fell down a 3rd-story balcony. And I was like, there's no way I fell down a balcony. Like, there's no way that happened and I'm still alive.
Dr. Schwindig came out and he told us, he basically said she's a really lucky girl. She's broken all of her ribs in the front and the back, her collarbone, her shoulder blade. But what concerned him was that she had a collapsed lung. She can recover from all her injuries. She's young, although he's concerned about the collapsed lung and the difficulty of it to heal. And what he was afraid of is an infection, which would be very life-threatening if that were to happen.
After some time had passed, they let my sister in the room finally. At first, they didn't really want her to see me. She was only 12. But then they let her come in, and I remember she walked in, and she looked at me, and I knew how disappointed she was, and I knew that I had let her down. Like, I screwed up. Like, I'm supposed to be her role model. Like, my mom always taught me that I was a role model, and looking at her, I was like, there's nothing I can do. I was so vulnerable, like, being in that hospital bed. Like, I knew I had let her down.
Well, I remember getting a report from the outgoing nurse, and she was telling me about Nicole's story, and I remember thinking that she was so lucky, but at the same time I remember thinking she was so sick. She was very lucky from the standpoint that she didn't have any further damage, brain damage, spine damage, that she was still alive, but at the same time when I got her she was extremely sick. And it could have gone either way at that time when I had her. She certainly could have died, and we had a tough time. She'd take a step forward and 2 steps back.
After they told me what was wrong with me, they said that it was everything was going to be curable and that I could go home. But the next day, things just got like way worse. I got pneumonia. And that's when everything just started to go downhill.
Because the pain was so bad with all those broken ribs. I mean, anybody that's even had one broken rib, she had them all broken, front and back. That it was very difficult for her to breathe and exercise, that the fluid was going to build up. She needed to cough that fluid out, and she couldn't. And so it spilled over into the next lung, and then the next lung collapsed, and then it got really scary. I mean, there were people running all over, buzzers going everywhere, and they put her back into ICU.
They were telling me to cough up everything, all the liquid that was in my lungs, but I was like so weak. The medicine was just like taking over. I literally was like, I can't do this. But the blood was like filling up, and I remember my dad, he like told me, he was like, look, like you need to try, you're not trying. He's like, and I don't care, like you have to try for your sister, like you have to do this for your sister. And then I don't know what happened. I coughed it up and like things got better. Like every day it got like a little bit better.
when she first came from the hospital, it was a physical. I had to help her even shower. I was worried that she wasn't never going to go back to normal because she was very athletic and she was very active. But then right away, she started getting better. It was quick recovery, but for me it was the emotional. Now even her going to the store, I was like, oh my God, is she going to get in a car accident? Is somebody going to do something to her? I don't think I've slept in I just, when she's out, it's just really hard to relax. I don't know if something is going to happen to her, So until she's home in her bed, then I can't fall asleep.
Recovering physically was really hard. I feel like recovering mentally was what took me the longest and which I struggled with for a while.
I'm not a psychiatrist, but it's almost as if she has survival guilt or post-trauma, like guys that come back from the war and somebody dies and they live. Because I feel as though she's dealing with issues like, why was I given a break?
It's really hard to wrap your head around something like that, how that can happen. It's still, I think about it every day. It always comes up every day. But mentally, I don't even know. It's such a weird thing. But I know that for me, I need to go back to school. I know I need to go back to Arizona State.
So we want her, I want her to have fun. I want her to have a great life. That's what every parent wants. I just want her to be safe. I want her to have fun, go out with her friends, go to school, study, do what kids do, but just be safe. We don't want anything to ever happen to her or anybody. I don't want any parent to have to go through what we went through. We came really close to losing our daughter, so I don't want to do that ever again.
In the moment, I didn't really feel like I was that drunk or that out of it, but I watched a video that someone had took of me from that night later on, and watching it just makes me cringe. It was so disturbing and it was so embarrassing. It wasn't me, and I hate watching that video and thinking that I was like that at one point in my life. Thinking back to it, it's so dumb. Drinking may have been fun for that moment, but it wasn't even worth everything. It wasn't even, I can't even remember what was fun, and now that I think about all the times I drank, oh yeah, that was a fun night, but what was fun about it? It's not worth what could happen. There's so much better things out there. When I'm just every day, enjoying life, sober, I wouldn't have that because of 2 hours of drinking or going to this one party and drinking because I wanted to be more comfortable or fit in or, but it's definitely not worth what could happen.
She thinks she's been given a break for us, but I also think that she's been given a break because now she's going to be looked at and she almost has a responsibility to show other kids and other people what could happen and how she can help them. It's like I said to her the other day, I go, it's going to be weird telling people, hey, be careful, this is what happened. I don't want to be that girl that's always remembered, this is the girl that had this accident. But if she keeps one girl or boy from having something horrible happen to that family, it's kind of worth it, right?
Being in the college environment, being around people who binge drink and, excessively drink, it's really hard. And I understand that all of this is my fault, and I understand that I put myself in this position that, I hurt a bunch of people. But the reason I want people to know my story is because I don't want people to ignore what could happen. I don't want people to be so carefree. I think that it's important, I could either address this and hopefully save someone's life or, run away from it. And I don't want to run away from it. I understand that it's embarrassing and that's not who I am, but it's something that happened, and I think it's important for people to know that it can happen.
The other interesting thing about an event like this is, and a lesson that any family can learn, is that we put so much emphasis on accomplishments that our kids make, whether they get 4.0 or they're the best person on a team or they get the best job or they bought the nicest home. And when something like this happens, you realize that those things don't matter. They really don't. The only thing that really matters is that they're safe and happy I mean, that's it. And that's for me, that's a good thing that came out of this, because although I tell myself that, you know, it doesn't matter what they do with their lives. I mean, part of you wants to maybe brag a little bit or whatever. That stuff means nothing compared to the safety and happiness of your kids. And I'm thankful for that lesson.
I really want to go back to school next semester, and I want to show everyone that I'm not like just some girl who fell off a balcony. I don't want to be remembered as that girl who fell off the balcony and disappeared. I want to go back to school, and I want to go back to my friends and go back to my life. I mean, I just know that I'm going to have a different mindset, and I view the world a lot differently now, which is good, I think. So I think it'll be important for me, and I'll feel a lot better about myself if I go back and finish my education.